maybe a substitute teacher who like can't connect to his students because he's like too afraid of them because it's like high school and I guess they can beat him up or something. But then the situation gets like super worse when it turns out that all his students are addicted to this like zombie TikTok AI video generator thing that like eventually mutates into this weird Illuminati pyramid and like hive minds them all. Like eventually this turns all his students into murderous zombies because he figured out what the deal was. Then on top of that, there's just this random school shooting in the school, and it's barely acknowledged in Pena's storyline because he doesn't fucking care about it because it's in another class, so it really just slows down his day. But it's actually one of the coolest aspects of the movie for the storyline because to him, this school shooting is just like an average Tuesday to him, and he doesn't fucking care anymore. Now, the dumb, lazy thing is that, like, in Pena's storyline, he also gets this, like, random Deus Ex Machina EMP gun weapon that, like, saves his ass because it like can stop all the kids from like looking at their phones and being zombies because it like will fry their phones for 5 minutes. He gets this from another teacher who just happened to build it for this specific occasion. It looks like a Mars Attacks ray gun. They call that out in the movie. The EMP gun is great, but slightly too limited to actually save the day. Like for every gang of 50 kids, it will maybe stop like 5 of them and then like their phones will turn on and like it really doesn't do anything in the long run. It just slows them down. So anyway, then the next character is Susan, the manic pixie dream MILF. Okay, so she has probably the saddest storyline because her kid was murdered in the insignificant school shooting from Michael Pena's flashback. So we go full Black Mirror in her storyline because she essentially goes to what looks like an Apple store, but it's like green and it like apparently offers to clone kids who died in school shootings. But it's very obvious from the start like how limited they actually are in like terms of like pulling this off. They give her like pseudo Animal Crossing like choices for like how to make her kid, and like the archetypes for kids are like 6 different archetypes, and like this thing is like this massively limited scam that's just making these like horrible clone monstrosity people. So this woman definitely isn't getting her kid back, but she's like so sad and desperate and shell-shocked that she just keeps saying yes to the guy until she eventually ends up purchasing this like horrible zombie version of her kid who's mostly just a robot spouting lines from a juice commercial to get her to constantly buy him juice. And the robot has very little in common with her original kid aside from looking like him. Anyway, the story gets way darker when she meets another group of parents who also had their kid cloned. And these parents reveal that their daughter had been murdered 4 times by like 4 different school shooters. So on the 4th time, they just like completely like lost it and just like made her this like super tall idiot. They randomly changed her religion to Muslim just to make her funnier. And there's some dark and twisted metaphor here that the adults are just making children for their own amusement, but also can't be bothered to like protect them or stop them from being murdered in school shootings because it's just easier to make more kids and replace them, or that the lives of the children are just jokes to the adults. There's like some like deep poetic metaphor playing out here, and I'm not 100% on what it was, but just seeing it in action was like deeply unsettling to my core. Then on top of that, dissatisfied with her useless advertising bot robot clone son, she then signs up for another service to bring her dead son back. And this one puts her son's brain in an AI hard drive kind of thing that can talk. And this kind of feels like a massive plot hole because then the AI son is totally OP even though he's just a hard drive. And he starts giving her step-by-step instructions to survive the events of the movie. Okay, then the third biggest character is the princess. She's actually possibly the like co-star of the movie. So Princess is a girl with Wi-Fi allergy, like Better Call Saul's brother, and she lives this like weird anti-technology life where she kind of comes off like she's like a hipster from the 60s or the 70s. She like makes oil paintings and like collects records and all that. It's kind of respectful, and when she's anywhere near a cell phone, she gets a nosebleed. So they set up early on that this might be some sort of weird psychosomatic reaction. Then they immediately start revealing that Princess is the time traveler's mom. First, they hint at it that her boyfriend looks almost like 1-for-1, exactly like the time traveler, but younger. So at first, I thought the boyfriend was the time traveler and it was just going to be like an aged up version of him. But then there's a pretty dumb storyline where he's also an anti-tech guy and they fall in love. But then out of nowhere, he gets deeply addicted to video games to the point where in 2 days, he decides to fully quit on his life and live full time in a video game in like a Matrix setup, which is like fucked up because before this, he was like totally about to commit to having a kid with the princess. I can kind of relate to this man's plight because I mean, like, if you gave me the option to like live forever in Katamari Damacy or like 2026 America, that's a pretty hard choice. But I mean, I guess eventually living full time in Katamari Damacy would like drive you insane, right? Anyway, so his storyline is a nifty metaphor because realistically, it seems like he goes from like completely great to like borderline suicidal and selling his souls to video games in like the course of 48 hours. And honestly, it doesn't quite make sense. Like, I know they're just like playing this out to be like this like big stage metaphor, but I feel like they needed like a better explanation for him. I feel like they needed a better hook onto like why he would do this, like why he would give up everything for this video game. Like, why is this video game like so addictive? Like, I get otherwise it's just like AI is evil, so he's addicted to video games forever now. AI is conquering the world. He can't stop playing video games now. But yeah, there's no clear cause to his effect, so his storyline feels like it's missing something very vital. So anyway, yeah, that was the princess's storyline, which was mostly a biography of her boyfriend who got addicted to video games and then left forever to be plugged into the Matrix. Then finally, the last flashback story is the hobo from the future's backstory. It reinforces that the princess is his mom because they both have this weird like obsession with the beauty of a sunrise. And otherwise he grows up in a bunker and then one day he like fucks up because he's a kid and he gets his mom killed in a drone strike. We don't really see much of the future world other than it looks like Stellar Blade mixed with like Soviet Russia. And so with all those prequel storylines down, okay, here's the actual plot of the movie. So once again, time traveler guy spawns into a Norm's diner and recruits 8 random people to go with him to stop an AI from taking over the world. Susan and her AI hard drive son tell him about a secret tunnel underneath the manager's office. And I should mention that Susan's son is randomly forcing her to help the time traveler. If I had to take a guess what the deal is, I guess either her son took over the AI and it's the AI's intelligence mixed with the son's good heart and soul, or maybe there's a greater flaw in the AI that it wants to stop itself from being a world destroyer, or maybe the AI is pretending to be Susan's dead son so hard that it's trying to protect her. Anyway, so they escape Norm's diner, but they end up being chased by these like 2 bounty hunters dressed like pigs, and there's like massive Earthbound vibes at the scene. They eventually get chased into an abandoned mall, but they trick the pig bandits into getting crushed to death by their own car. Now after that, they journey through the suburbs where they're trying to reach this kid's house to stop this AI singularity. The AI singularity is going to be caused by this 9-year-old boy who invents this like self-replicating AI, and they have like an hour to reach his house and stop him by like shutting down his computer by plugging a USB into it. So the movie is seemingly playing out in real time at this point. So they get to this safe house. I don't know why, but they waste a ton of time hanging out and eating and being goofy in the safe house, especially as the time traveler points out that after this, a mysterious unseen chaos force will attack them. And I kind of feel like they should have rushed to the kid's house and not waited for the unforeseen force of destruction to show up, because it's basically Gozer the Destructor. Like, if you've seen Ghostbusters, this is the scene that is literally stolen from Ghostbusters, because it's basically the choose the form of the Destructor scene where like Ray randomly wishes for the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, so the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man destroys New York City in the climax of Ghostbusters. Now, it's definitely an inferior copy of that scene because they haven't really explained how the AI has gotten like these god powers at this point, but I thought the whole point of the film was they were trying to prevent the AI from getting god powers, but now it posits that the AI has god powers already. So if the AI has god powers already, what's the point when it can literally generate its like anything it wants to defend itself? So anyway, yeah, this is very, very beat for beat the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man scene from Ghostbusters. And same thing as the Marshmallow Man scene, they like talk about like what it's going to do, and now anything they think about is going to turn into the monster. So the gang like decides to wish for kittens and a centaur. So first thing first, the zombie teenagers from Michael Peña's backstory catch up to them and nearly kill them. But then the Destructor finally arrives and turns out, yeah, it's a giant centaur monster made out of kittens. And it is completely fucking horrendous. Like, it's maybe some like metaphor for like all like the weird cat videos that keep coming out of like AI slop. And the time traveler says that it like used the words they said as an AI prompt. And yeah, otherwise it's like one for one the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man scene from Ghostbusters. But it plays out different. I didn't totally hate it. But what annoyed me was they don't actually defeat the giant cat monster. It basically gets into a fight with the zombie teenagers and leaves of its own volition because it's like it's got the intelligence of a cat, you know? So anyway, they finally reach the final boss. The final boss is this like messed up evil kid. He's kind of like Dexter's laboratory, but like if Dexter was like zoned in on like destroying the human race. But he otherwise has the straight up like giant crazy basement laboratory anyway. He has parents too, but they like easily like kill his parents and like just get down to the laboratory. Then he also has this like army of toy robots. And for like one scene, there's like a cameo by the janked up Frankenstein toys from like Toy Story 1. It's a really random cameo, but they straight up like show like the exact same like Toy Story 1 like zombie toy things. Like it's like, hey, remember Toy Story 1? But yeah, then after that they just fight these toy robots for the rest of the scene. Anyway, the climax of the movie is pretty wacky. Time Traveler and Susan try to defeat this kid, but he's this like unholy like monster kid. Susan realizes that he's like another like clone coordinator human, like her fake clone son. And I guess he only has been created to like perfect this AI. So he's like this like weird like science experiment monster kid or something. Anyway, they finally like team up with like her AI son and like they try to install the software updates into his computer to stop the AI, but they take a little bit too long. So he ties them up and robots stab them to death and they bleed out. Princess finally comes into her own at the climactic moment. So Evil Boy and Princess have this big talk where he reveals that the time traveler is obviously her son, and they hinted at that blatantly like 4 times, so it was like super obvious by that point. And so he makes up some fucked up deal with her that he'll spare the earth if she does something for him. So she doesn't listen to him and they install the antivirus software and they seemingly save the day, except they don't. Like at the end of the movie, something is still wrong and the AI somehow still took over the world and I guess it became God and like started manipulating reality. I'm not exactly sure what like tips them off at first, what went wrong, but if I had to take a guess, Time Traveler technically installed the software a few minutes too late. So I guess that's why they failed, so he resets the loop. But again, they wouldn't have been late if they hadn't dicked around in like the safe house. So again, that still annoys me because like they could have won, but they chose to be lazy. Anyway, so this leaves Princess alone to realize that the world she's in is like this crazy Matrix fever dream as like all the characters like suddenly turn on her and arrest her in like a total nightmare shit show ending. Except then they reset to the front of the movie again and Time Traveler restarts the loop again. And I guess it seems like he's gonna directly work with his mom this time to like maybe spread her technology disease to try and make more people resistant to technology and not turn into cell phone zombies. I guess that's the end of the movie, and it's an interesting place to end it, but holy hell, I immediately want to watch a sequel to this, which isn't something I've felt out of an original movie in a long while. So yeah, I'm completely like down for this one. Overall, how was this movie? How did I feel about this? It is definitely the first Gore Verbinski movie where I feel like this man has a pulse, and he's not being dragged along by Disney World and like the whims of Johnny Depp. Like, if I had to say one Gore Verbinski movie that was actually a Gore Verbinski movie, it's this one. Like, for better or worse, this entire movie is Gore Verbinski trying to have, like, a dialogue with the audience. Now, sure, it's 2 hours of Gore Verbinski screaming through these characters that AI is evil, video games are evil, cell phones are evil, and eventually the combination of the 3 will ultimately kill us. The weakest aspect of the story is that there's also this, like, random tangent that cloning is evil. That one seems a little bit far-fetched because that's not a real problem in the real world, whereas everything else he's talking about is kind of like an immediate problem. I would argue that video games aren't that big of a problem, but yeah, AI, maybe cell phones definitely are. I did like the tangent he started out on about school shootings, but then he pivoted into answering that with like cloning as a crappy answer. At first it felt like a bad joke, but then he committed to it because then the movie slowly ramps up that these sci-fi clone children just exist in its weird premise. And I'm also not sure what the deal was with them coming back around to the AI hardware son. I feel like that also could have been explained better because I still don't fully understand the AI son's motivations unless you're just straight up accepting that the AI had the son's soul, which is impossible. I think for that storyline, it would have made more sense if the son was a robot and not a clone, since robots replacing people is becoming way more relevant in society than clones ever doing it. I don't feel like the clone storyline paid off well, other than the boy who made the AI was this like clone child with like no parents or ethics. Otherwise, all the other storylines just boil down to one day AI fucked up your life forever and you're too late to do anything to stop it. I guess the other weak thing about the movie was Gore Verbinski like basically laid down like 4 different clues that the princess was the time traveler's mom before they out and out say it like blatantly in the climax. I did kind of get it by the second hint. The first hint I kind of thought it could have been her boyfriend aged up. But yeah, the lack of subtlety here did not feel like he respected the audience or like was talking to adults. I think he spent too much time like making Disney